the number of calibrations that were needed in a particular repair was very different from what we see today. So it's getting more and more complicated. That leads us to believe that specialization in this industry is going to prevail. It is here to stay.
Welcome to another episode of the Collision Vision podcast driven by Auto Body News. As always, I'm your host, Cole Strandberg. Today, we're continuing our technology takeover, the impact of ADAS and calibration series, with an exciting guest who's at the forefront of innovation in the industry. Joining me today is Adi Bathla, CEO of Revv, an AI-powered technology platform that's transforming how collision repair shops approach ADAS calibration. Adi and his team recently raised $20 million to expand their operations and revolutionize the way shops handle this critical service. In this episode, we'll explore the incredible opportunities ADAS calibration presents for collision repair businesses. We'll discuss how Revv's AI solutions are simplifying the process, and we'll uncover strategies for shops to maximize profitability in this constantly evolving space. Whether you're already offering calibration services or thinking about getting started, this conversation will provide some valuable insights into the future of ADAS technology and how to think about that in terms of your business. Enjoy the show. This episode is brought to you by asTech. asTech is dedicated to safety, precision, and innovation in vehicle diagnostics. With industry-leading scanning and calibration solutions, asTech ensures every repair meets OEM standards, enhancing safety and customer satisfaction. Continuously testing and scanning new vehicles, asTech refines its technology to stay ahead of modern repair challenges. A tool stack covering 40 plus brands and a network of over 400 ASE and I-CAR certified technicians provides fast, accurate diagnostics that maximize efficiency. asTech, driven by precision, powered by safety. Visit asTech.com today or call them at 1-888-486-1166. Enjoy the show. Adi, thank you so much for joining us here on the Collision Vision.
Thanks for having me.
Looking forward to a great conversation with an entrepreneur and a company who's certainly making some waves. I'll start kind of from the top. Introduce yourself for us in your own words.
My name is Adi Bathla. I'm the co-founder and CEO at Revv. And Revv was born in my family's auto repair shops. I was fortunate enough to build and scale global products at high growth startups, Fortune 500 companies in my career. Seeing how pen and paper running a shop was, I was pushed to build, really starting from my family, which led me to the problem around ADAS and Revv.
Super cool. I love that story. In our pre-show conversation, I was talking about it. I think non-industry insiders, and with your background in technology, more than necessarily collision repair, brings a unique perspective. And I think that unique perspective's tremendously valuable. Talk to me. So let's dive a little bit more into your family's business and talk to me about the inspiration and the challenges that you saw to go out and create Revv. And then further, how would you describe the company's mission?
Yeah, so my family runs auto body shops based out of Houston, Texas. And I go to them for Christmas. And what I saw while I was sitting in the shops was how archaic and how offline the business process was. All the business procedures were run on pen and paper, and what the people and the owners and the technicians really wanted to focus on was the car and the customer. And I was just a kid in a candy store, basically, seeing how much I could build for them and how much I could impact their lives positively using technology. So that was a real genesis of Rev. And the mission for the company is really centered around the fact that innovation has made business harder for the auto shops. At Rev, we are seeing a different future where technology makes running an auto shop easier. By taking care of business operations and growth, shops can focus on what really matters, which is a car and the customer.
Man, so cool. These blue collar industries and trade industries who do a lot of things on pen and paper, I think from someone like you has to represent an amazing opportunity to go in and make life easier, improve businesses, and most importantly, to your point, the role that collision repairers play is so important. We're talking life and death and
Yep.
safety, and to allow customers to focus on, or I guess your customers, collision repairers, to focus on safe and proper repairs makes total sense. Now, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the Rev business, but kind of at a high level, we keep hearing about AI,
Mhm.
artificial intelligence, and I think there's some confusion about how that might impact industries like collision repair. How does Rev utilize AI in your process?
Artificial intelligence is I would actually call it as a smarter intelligence. So Rev has a built-in knowledge graph, essentially. The whole problem that the ADAS segment of the auto industry faces is that it's a data problem. So as technicians use Rev, and now more than 70,000 repairs being processed through Rev a month, technicians look at what are the systems equipped, what are the procedures to be performed, why are they performing those procedures, what are the procedure types, what are the instructions, where the manufacturer is talking about them. All that feedback is ingested back into the product, and the knowledge graph is updated. That is how we use AI to really keep the product the most intelligent and up to date in the industry. The industry is also moving really fast. So net new vehicles come out, net new requirements come out every single day. And to keep the product up to date is the biggest challenge for this segment of the industry, biggest challenge for ADAS identification. That is where AI plays a really big role.
So much change, so much innovation. Again, as you mentioned, traditionally making this industry more challenging. The vehicles repairing are totally different than they were even 5 years ago, certainly a decade ago. Interesting how you kind of facilitate that integration of that intelligence, maybe not artificial intelligence, but advanced into the process. I think makes total sense. Zooming out a little bit, how does Rev work with body shops compared to maybe their traditional processes and way of going about working?
Rev facilitates the primary benefit that Rev provides is it facilitates a ton of time savings. So as you're aware, cycle time is of prime importance in the industry. Cycle time equals revenue. Cycle time equals the quality of repair that the collision repairer can deliver. So Rev compresses that research time that otherwise would have taken days or sometimes weeks of manual research, which is why most people don't do it. It compresses that into seconds and gives actionable insights and essentially acts as your co pilot. It unlocks additional or missed calibrations. It goes beyond ADAS calibrations and tells you about safety procedures. It essentially helps you capture more revenue. It helps you reduce your liability. And today, Rev is an end to end business management solution as well. So, the way you quote, the way you manage your workforce, the way technicians manage their day to day, or in the future, how the technicians get paid or how the shop gets paid as well, will all be centered through Rev.
Very interesting. When I think of Rev, certainly ADAS is the first thing that comes to mind. So to get a sense of that kind of global interconnectivity within the shop, I think is very helpful. What kind of feedback are you getting from shops who go ahead and join Rev's platform and integrate Rev into their business?
That's a great question and very timely. We actually just conducted a very thorough research study around the industry sentiment about Rev. And a lot of what we hear is Rev is the leader in ADAS identification. Rev integrates with all of their tech stack. So whatever estimation platforms they have or whatever equipment they're using, Rev nicely sits in the middle and integrates with all of them. People also say it provides the complete picture of the safety procedures. So again, not just limited to ADAS, but it goes to alignment triggers, safety and functional operations, and further digitizes the workflows around quoting and workforce management. Again, it just reduces all the anxiety that comes with managing everything ADAS, safety, and all the use cases around it, so folks can actually focus on the meat of the matter.
Makes total sense. Very good. And I'm sort of doing this conversation in reverse to a lot of our conversation, and that is kind of starting zoomed out and then zooming into the business. And I like this in this case. So I'm going to keep on the Rev line of questioning, and then I want to zoom out a little later on in our conversation and talk about the industry as a whole and the
Mhm.
opportunities those represent. So continuing our Rev portion of the conversation, you guys made some big news here over the last couple months at this time of the recording uh, for raising $20+ million in funding. Firstly, congratulations, I think, are in order. That's a major milestone for any technology company. But what does that mean for Rev today?
Thank you, first off. And the first thing is really the growth, the industry sentiment, the value that we are providing today to the industry is attributed to a lot of the hard work of the team. We have a best-in-class team that is working really hard to deliver the best-in-class products and distribute it to all the collision repair shops across multiple countries now. So a lot of thanks is goes to the team. And what 20 million, raising 20 million means for the company is really further doubling down into our EPD, engineering product and design segment of the part of the company. And what that means is really building the default solution for collision, body, calibration specialists, and really whoever touches the car after it's been sold, the default solution for them to identify, work, and pay and manage this ever growing segment of the auto industry, the hottest thing that has happened to the auto industry in the past 25 years. It comes with its own problems, but a lot of that funding is going to be solving those problems. And the rest goes to our go to market motion as well. We want to reach everybody who needs the help wherever they are, whatever size of the business they are. We want to reach them and we want to help them out with our technology solutions.
Fantastic. And I see you guys are hiring like crazy as well. So if any of this for any potential employees sounds interesting, do feel free. I hope to reach out to Adi. But very good. We've talked about where Rev is today. Let's talk about the future a little bit. What do you think is
Mhm.
next for Rev in terms of technology development and the overall impact that you guys are going to have on the industry for the future?
One overarching theme that we see in the industry is that every single company or technology solution or hardware solution is its own walled garden. There's a lot of want to be educated about this net new in the industry. What we see Rev to be a connectivity tissue that meets you wherever you are in that journey, that educates you about what repairing a car properly means, how to navigate this net new, which is inevitable, how to reduce your liability. So that connectivity tissue is being built by managing not just ADAS identification, but also every single net new use case that is surrounding that ADAS identification. So how you collaborate with other businesses like your sublet providers, how do you communicate, how do you schedule, how does your workflow go about with this net new? All that stuff is going to be done in Revv, and Revv is going to facilitate the connectivity between all the existing hardware and software solutions that you're using today. That is the ultimate goal, and that's where our technology is headed.
Man, I feel like I'm speaking with a true innovator in technology. I love how you view it. Again, I think the terminology is so different than a lot of the lines you hear in the traditional collision repair industry, but it's a different industry than it was not too long ago, which is a great segue into, I think, zooming out a little bit and talking about the broader industry. I think there's no question that this net new, as you say, is not going anywhere. This is new, and it's going to continue to change and evolve into something even newer. How do you view the ADAS calibration opportunity for the collision repair industry?
As you said, it is a net new and it is here to stay. It is getting bigger by the day, by the minute. And the recent analysis showed that the ADAS market is undergoing a tremendous growth. The value of the ADAS market itself is expected to leap from 64 billion at the moment to over 212 billion by 2034. And it's largely driven by pivotal software solutions that are enabling greater vehicle automation and safety. Safety, I believe, has to be the key focus here. There's too much liability at stake to miscalibrations or do them incorrectly, even. Over 90% of vehicles that are produced will have some form of ADAS equipment this year. And in 2024 itself, 4.3 million calibration opportunities were there, which resulted in about 1.3 billion in revenue. So this net new is, I would say, not so new anymore. It was new yesterday, but it is a large part of the auto industry, and it's the fastest growing segment of the auto industry as well.
Technology moves quickly, and you're absolutely right. It can't be considered new anymore. We've been talking about it here on this show for 2 years. By the time of this airing, over 2 years. And another recurring theme, I think, on the Collision Vision, and it's my fault because I believe it and I say it, it's my recurring theme, is that challenges create opportunities. And I think over the last few years, this new addition of these new technologies and ADAS were viewed as a real challenge and a pain. But for the right operators and the right companies to take that challenge, create fixes, do it right, represents an opportunity to a magnitude that, to your point, we're talking about billions of dollars in a marketplace, which I think is absolutely fascinating. Now, some questions that come up around the ADAS calibration space certainly involve liability, and I want to touch on that. They also involve longevity. And I think there was a decade ago when this technology first started to emerge, the idea that eventually it's going to go away. There's self-calibration, all that stuff. How do you view first the longevity of the ADAS calibration space?
The way I view this is there are permutations of sensors, cameras, modules, electronics as components in vehicles that power these systems such as adaptive cruise control, lane keep, even your reverse parking camera. And I love to see the world with historical data as an input. So if you see the permutations with which these vehicles are being equipped historically over the past decade, the permutations of these components that are being equipped to power the different features that are equipped in the vehicles today is actually growing. It's getting more and more and more complicated. When we started Revv a few years ago, a couple of years ago, The number of calibrations that were needed in a particular repair was very different from what we see today. So it's getting more and more complicated. Now, fast forward 5 to 10 years, and how we see the businesses behave is that there are a certain types of operations that can only be performed with the right space, with the right skill set, with the right equipment, such as surround view, for example. That leads us to believe that specialization in this industry is going to prevail. It is here to stay. It is here to stay for the long term. We also believe that shops will get more and more sophisticated in their ways of handling ADAS calibrations. There's net new hardware that is being built that lets shops, it's already in the market actually, that lets shops utilize the space that they have to perform even the most advanced calibrations. So even though specialization is here to stay, we think that shops will get more and more capable, and we see a genesis of a net new marketplace, if you will, powered by the sublet segment of the industry. That's how we see ADAS percolating more and more, education percolating more and more, as well as specialization prevailing over the next 5 to 10 years as the driver gets more and more detached from the vehicle.
Very interesting. And I want to talk about kind of that sublet versus in-house conversation. But before I do, I think the specialization piece is key. In January, we had our series based on the end of the era of the single store generalist body shop. And I think a lot of our services within the industry are going to be the same way. We're not going to be all things to all people. These vehicles are so complex. There's no way that it's going to be feasible in the future, in my opinion, to do everything right to every vehicle. And so I'm very intrigued by your view of the specialization piece there. I do want to talk about liability as well, because with specialization, the intent behind that is doing things right and making sure you're doing things right. A question that I've asked throughout this series is ignorance, which is maybe a harsh term, but is not knowing the right way to do things or not knowing what calibrations need to be done, going to protect folks from liability and be an excuse for them?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a very very slippery slope, in my opinion. As car gets more and more complicated, as a driver gets more and more detached from the actual operation of the vehicle or the long haul, and what's happening today as well, I'll provide some of this contrast. So the biggest problem about ADAS is that you take a bumper out, put it back in, you repair the fender, the quarter panel, you don't see the physical damage. You do a pre-scan, post-scan, more than 80% of the calibrations are not going to show up exactly according to what manufacturer says that needs to be done. So an example of liability is that if you repair the car properly, the pre-scan post-scan goes well, but your windshield camera is tilted by a millimeter and the car has lane keep. You're on a highway and this can lead to a fatal accident. That is where the liability piece comes in, and it weighs really heavily, at least in my brain. And that pushes us to educate the industry more and more, highlight this more and more, being on this podcast, having a community that Revv has today, and really shouting out our mission to really make sure roads are safer for all. It needs to be really echoed as much as possible to reduce this liability. Fast forward in the future, this is only getting more and more complicated. If that is one use case that I shared with you today, that is going to become 10, 50, maybe 100 use cases in the future. So the sooner we hammer this down and sooner we really spread the word, the better.
It's something I've seen in this industry as a whole of late here over the last few years is an openness to share and realize that, hey, sure, technically we may be competitors, but at the end of the day, we're all in this together as one industry, and we want to do things right by drivers, vehicle owners, people who are relying on our repairs for their safety. And so, I appreciate you coming on and educating folks. I appreciate everyone in this series coming on and educating folks, because it is insanely important to do that and share what we have and know to make sure we're doing things right. For shops that are listening to this and they are considering getting in to the ADAS calibration game themselves, what are some of the biggest challenges they might face that would keep them from bringing that in-house?
There are a multitude of challenges to no fault of the shops that they face to bring these calibrations in house. There's a lot of low hanging fruit. So, the functional safety operations that Rev highlights, or procedures like your front radar recalibration, for example, be it static, be it dynamic, it's relatively easier to bring those in house with an aftermarket tool, and even the procedures that Rev highlights, the instructions, the procedure types, and the manufacturer specific requirements that are highlighted in the products. So that is the lowest barrier to entry, I would say. But for the shops that are looking for a more comprehensive solution, they should definitely look into whether working with a sublet partner that meets or exceeds your service expectations is a path that you want to take. They should talk to their equipment manufacturers' requirements and trainings and setup, even post-sale support. They should look towards that. They can also talk to local shops how they are handling these calibrations. There are various 20 groups in the industry. At Rev, we also have a community today. And there's a lot of healthy, productive discussions that are happening in that community. So shops can always join that community, and we'll have various resources as well that will help alleviate some of this burden, because a lot of this information is scattered. There's a lot of equipment providers that you can choose from. There's different equipments for different procedures as well. So a lot of this is really kind of swimming in the ocean and finding the right answer for your unique problem. That's where you can look towards help, and help such as really talking to other people.
Even
Or
though
talking to Rev.
even
Yeah.
though the industry is as we discussed, technically can't be considered new anymore, it is still evolving very quickly. It is relatively new in the spectrum of collision
Yeah.
repair. And so in a sense, we are in this frontier, this wild west of figuring all of this out together. Talk to me about this community you have at Rev. Is that for Rev affiliates or partners exclusively, or can a shop listening here who wants to learn more get involved with that?
Absolutely anybody, shops who are even using our competitors, or shops who are using whatever equipment they're using. The community is that we have built is purely for education purposes, is purely to help the industry. There's literally no rev really incentive for the discussions that are going on in that community. We encourage all and everybody to really be a part of it and have productive, healthy discussions, because, as you said, all of us are navigating this net new together. All of us are willing to share what this net new looks like. So helping each other out is a big part of this industry. That's what the whole community is about.
I love it. After the show, I'd like to get some links to that, and we'll go ahead and include access into that community in the show notes for folks who do want to learn more. We talk about the challenges. Talk to me about the opportunity for a shop who has the space, has the facility. What makes it worth maybe breaking through that hesitation of making the investment, which is not a small investment, into this calibration equipment and technology?
Absolutely. For shops, I think the biggest protection is liability. So your shops or services, the quality of repair, the quality of car that you're putting back on the road and giving back to your customer, that is first and paramount. That is what induces the element of safety in the industry. And from a business standpoint, it is substantial ROI for the shop as well. So at Rev, we see an average of 1,250 per repair that gets that the shops can absorb. Substantial ROI if it adds up, as it adds up per based on the volume of repairs that you're processing, and and uh, they're pretty high margins. When you look at a collision repair business, the margins for your general repairs versus margins for ADAS calibrations is a massive difference. So it's a pretty lucrative revenue opportunity for shops as well. We are happy to provide some of the ROI calculations as well in our community, or if you reach out to us, we also have case studies, real case studies of our customers listed on our website. Um, and TLDR is the investment that you're making in terms of time, equipment, solutions like Rev upfront, um, pays multifold if you invest and actually does the right thing to your customers and to the safety of the roads in general.
I get a sense based on what I know about Rev and then our conversation here that your job is not necessarily to convince shops to bring ADAS in-house. It's more to convince shops that there's opportunity here, whether you do it yourself or sublet. For those who are looking to get into ADAS calibration and bringing that in-house, what's the first step?
The first step is really understanding the cars that are coming into your shops. What are the missed calibrations or the calibrations that you are not performing today? And a straightforward way is to go the route of ADAS identification and process the repairs through Rev, or process the repairs in general to understand, even if you want to do your own research, to really understand what your vehicle mix looks like and what is the opportunity for your business and what you're missing when you are putting the car back on the road for your customer. I think that is the point of realization that this exists, and these are also cars that are already coming into my shop. Then comes a bit of a discovery around what can I personally take up or my staff can take up in terms of technical expertise, really reading about it using the Rev platform, or just reading about it through OEM manuals. If you have an aggregator, whatever you might have, just really understanding what performing these calibrations means. And the final step would be, if you're ready, then you're purchasing an aftermarket tool, for example, or a tool in general, or an OEM tool, whichever tool you want to purchase, to really start performing those calibrations. I think once you're through that hump, that is when things get easier. You just have to get through that first bit of understanding of these three elements.
Makes total sense. Now, for shops who are questioning if they have the space or the building or the willingness to invest in the equipment, how should they think about some of these sublet options out there? And I think there's a component of liability there as well. Just because you're sending it to somebody doesn't mean you're not somewhat responsible for repairing the vehicle correctly.
Absolutely. Once you figured out the opportunity, if you think that having a sublet partner and the right sublet partner is a route that you want to take, you are still achieving the safety protocols, you're still achieving the ROI potential, but you're just taking a different route. So I would recommend shops reach out to their nearby locations and see which sublet providers they're using and what has their experience been with those sublet providers. I would also just talk to sublet providers in your area and see the quality of service that they're providing. Talk to them about their relationships and get some referrals to the shops that they're already working with. And I think those steps make it a thorough assessment to really analyze whether you want to partner or you want to bring stuff in house.
Sage advice there. Now, bringing us back to the shop that now wants us to do it in house, we're going for it. How does training play a role in ensuring success with ADAS calibration, and where can shops go about getting trained?
That's a great one. Um, it all starts with really dipping your toes first, because if you think about it, a technician today is not just expected to do the work that they have been doing, but calibrations are a fundamental shift in in the procedures that they have to perform, which is akin to a skilled engineer. Basically, it's physics. And um, the first step would be really reading about it, reading what the manufacturer is talking about, step by step instructions of a few procedures, and understanding what it means and what is that fundamental shift in the work that they're expected to perform now. And you can go very, very deep in here as well. There are solutions out there like the I-CAR Academy or I-CAR in general, where you can get training. There are manufacturer certification programs as well. So there's a multitude of opportunities outside that can help you achieve that level of expertise. And as you said, things are only getting more and more complicated. So constant reading and constantly educating yourself is very important. But it all starts from dipping your toes first and really being eager about what it means.
Taking the plunge and diving in. A lot of opportunity there, a lot of challenges. From your perspective, who's the perfect customer for Revv?
Good one. The industry has shown us a lot of color this year. We are 20 months into our journey, but what started with calibration specialists in the beginning moved on to collision body shops. And as an early stage company, you don't really pick and choose your customers. You want to service everybody. You want to help every single business that really knocks at your door. That's the ethos that we carry as well. So now we're servicing um, the specialists, the collision body shops. We're servicing glass shops. We also have dealership groups and our net new product that is purpose built for the mechanical industry as well. So now we're servicing the mechanical repair shops as well. What's happening here is that ADAS is affecting every single business that touches the car after it's been sold. It's inevitable, which is why through organic or proactive outreach, this has become our diverse customer base.
Man, what you guys have accomplished in about 20 months is very, very cool to see. And I'm looking forward to following along with your journey from here. I'm very excited for you guys. To that, where can people who want to learn more about Revv get in touch and follow along with you guys?
We're trying to make it simpler and simpler by the day, but if we can help you, we'd be more than happy to. You can go to revhq.com, send us your contact information, or give us a ring. There's a phone number on the website as well, and one of our team members will reach out to you as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Adi, you've been so generous with your time. I see for those of us watching on YouTube, you got beautiful New York skyline in your background. Stay warm up there. And to the family back in Houston, who got more snow over the past week? You or them?
Yes, yes, they did. They did. I got the videos.
Oh, insane, insane. Well, Adi, a pleasure, man. Really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Collision Vision.
Thank you, Cole. Thanks for having me.
That is all for today's episode here on the Collision Vision, driven by Auto Body News. A big thank you to Adi for joining us and sharing his expertise on how Revv is shaping the future of ADAS calibration and helping shops thrive in the space. If you enjoyed today's conversation, do not forget to follow this podcast wherever you enjoy your shows, and please take a moment to leave a review. It helps us reach more people in the industry to help them improve their businesses. You can also give us a follow on YouTube, where the Collision Vision lives in video form. Be sure to tune in for our next episode next week in the Technology Takeover series as we continue exploring the impact of ADAS and calibration on the collision repair industry and the opportunity that represents for you. On behalf of the Auto Body News team and myself, thank you for coming along for the ride.